Hi everyone, welcome back to Katarina's Garage. My name is Katarina Lloyd, and today, well, we're talking about my strut brace in my vehicle and why I actually have it in here, and not only that, but what do they actually do? So I've had lots of comments actually talking about how, why do you have a strut brace? You don't make enough power to need a strut brace. Fun fact, your horsepower and torque numbers are irrelevant to a strut brace. You want to know why? Because they're for handling purposes. They're not because of power. Now, something like chassis stiffening between the front and back is more for power, but that can also affect handling as well. But side to side, your horsepower and torque numbers are irrelevant. So here, let me take it off the stand and show you guys a little more in depth. So this strut brace is from BBK actually, and you know, I painted it, although it needs to be painted again because it was outside and it got scratched up and stuff. But anyways, doesn't matter. So all this does, so it triangulates your strut brace with the shock towers. And what is that actually doing? It's making it so that the shock towers don't flex near as much. Which, what is that going to do for your vehicle? Very simple, in fact, is that will actually make it so that understeers a little less. Because what happens when your shock towers flex a little bit is that, because again, they're not going to flex like a ton unless they're like really rotted out or something like that. But my shock tower is actually in pretty decent shape. But because you can see, like, this is very stiff to the chassis. I am shaking the entire vehicle by doing that. And with this setup in here, it'll help when I track the car and go around corners at a decent amount of speed so that it understeers less. Because when the chassis actually, so like when your shock towers flex, you're actually going to be changing your camber and potentially a bit of the toe as it's flexing back and forth like that. And again, you're not really going to see it in real time at all. And it's a minor thing, but every little bit makes all the difference in the world. You could put this on a vehicle with 30 horsepower, like on a Volkswagen Bug as an example, right? You could put this on a vehicle that has 1,000 horsepower. It just really depends on what you want to do. Like, do you want it to be a, you know, like, do you want this to be a vehicle for handling? Do you want it for like straight line speed? Now, the thing is underneath, because I have more than that for chassis stiffening, because if we take a look underneath the vehicle, you can see I have these subframe connectors installed. And the subframes actually installed, they tie the chassis in from the front to the rear subframes, and actually it makes a big difference when it comes to how the thing gets traction, and at the same time of how it'll also, sorry, brain's not working, but also a bit of the handling as well, because it helps a tiny bit with the, with, what is it called? Body roll. There we go. Thank you. My brain's not working, but I'm saying thank you to myself for thinking of it. But yeah, like honestly, and these, so the thing is, if you are wanting to build a drag car, this is just dead weight. You don't need it. But if you were building a vehicle for handling purposes, which is what I'm doing here, then this can actually make a huge difference. Because like I said, the less you can understeer, the better, right? And that's the great part about this. Now, I also have a rear sway bar for this vehicle because it doesn't actually have one in the back, fun fact. If we take a look, but I do have one to install, because this would have only had, it was like 1.25 inch rear brace and or rear sway bar from the factory. It was really, really tiny. Now I have about 1.5 to 2 inch. I haven't put a caliper on it to know for sure, but it's out of a GT, so that'll be really good too. And something I want to see actually, because I have a front sway bar out of a GT as well. I don't know if they're any bigger than what I have in this vehicle, because you can't actually see it from up top really. Well, kind of. You can see it right here, right? And I would just have to get a caliper on the front sway bar that I have up in Edmonton and see if it's worth to swap in here or not. Because if it's the same size, I'm not even going to bother. But if it's even like a quarter or half an inch, it makes a big difference, because the strength and thickness of your sway bars and of your strut brace stiffens up the chassis more and can help with body roll and understeer, which is the name of the game here, right? We want this thing to understeer as little as possible, which these Fox bodies are famous for understeering. Because actually, I'm gonna put a clip in right here to show some of that understeer. So, and with that, right, you can definitely tell these cars, and like you can hear me say, understeer, right? Because you can feel it. Like the car, and what understeer actually is, because sorry, I didn't explain that. But what understeer is so when you're going around a corner, and when you're not, your tail isn't going out, because that's oversteer. But when your front end starts to kind of plow a bit and go like this, and veer you off course, right? Front-wheel drives and four-wheel drives are actually very famous for understeering, while usually rear-wheel drives have more oversteer, which is where you lose a bit of traction on the back end and it starts to slide out like that, you know? Or as Richard Hammond called it, is understeer. You know, you're driving around a corner, you're not really losing, like you're losing traction, but you're not really spinning around. You crash into a tree and you die and you see it. Where oversteer, you go around a corner, the ass end kicks out, you crash into a tree and you die, but at least you don't see your death, so it's better. Oh, God, I love old Top Gear. It was the best. It was the best. And I miss the banter between James May, Richard Hammond, and of course the legend Jeremy Clarkson. But anyways, so I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, your cat, your family. And as well, look down in the description below for discount codes. One is for Flash Shark Racing, and the other is for a new sponsor, which is Oxido Lighting. Oxido has amazing lights, and to be honest, I've actually heard from a decent amount of my fans that that's all the lights that they use. So you'll be seeing some of their products actually in my vehicle soon. I believe everything is for the F250, and then we'll probably work with them again as well to do some lighting on this. Unfortunately, they don't have the sealed beam stuff, but I've kind of hinted to them that if they got into that, it'd be a really good market. Because to my knowledge, RMS Lighting does it, which honestly, their products are amazing from what I've heard, for the sealed beam setup, you know, with the LEDs. And then I think on Holly's website, or like on Summit, they'll sell that sort of stuff as well. So it's, you know, we'll see, right, with any of that. And I'd love to do an upgrade like that, but I just can't afford it. So, you know, if any of those companies want to reach out to me, please feel free. I would love to review your products. So anyways, take care of yourselves. Go out there, work on your rig, and yeah, I'll catch you again in the next one. Bye!